Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another OSR tabletop live stream with myself, Bloodworth. I'm just calling myself Bloodworth this time because I'm going to be focusing on um, computer RPGs or console RPGs. And anytime that I'm playing in one of those, I just use the name of Bloodworth for my characters in those games. And what really prompted this was, I've been having some discussions, met some new people on, on last night's used to be called the Chill Stream, the Friday Night Chill Stream with Max over at Legion of Myth, and looked at some of their videos. Followed their channel as well, and you know, computer RPGs actually popped up in one of the shorts, and I felt that might spend some time on this because my channel of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review has always been open to discussion of multiple platforms of role play game access and engagement with. So I've been a role player in my gaming ever since 1977 or so, with tabletop role playing games. Intermixed that throughout the 80s with a variety of console games, game systems that came out. I mean, I started with Telstar in like 1974 or 5 or somewhere in there with just Pong. And I remember being in early junior high school, which would have been around that would have been ninth grade for me, so maybe 1980, 1981. And we've all seen that the dragon that looked like a chicken that was incredibly difficult to fight. And I grew up with Atari and Coleco, and then Nintendo, and then Sega, then PlayStation, and so on. And so the connections have always been pretty big and between the tabletop role-playing hobby and role-playing games on computer or console back in those days. Hold on, I gotta just say, let me just text my wife. I am solo for the next 3 days, which is another reason why I'm doing this. Doing this here, and that was just my wife checking to see. I do have a thunderstorm rolling through, so hopefully the dog is okay. Usually she freaks out, but if I have to split, go downstairs, bring her back up, that'll be a real quick break. I'm waiting to hear if she cries, and if she does, then I'll go grab her and bring her up here. She's probably hiding under something. And let's see. Yes. She wants to know if the dog is okay. So anyway, so I'm solo for the next 3 days, which is why I'm doing a live stream tonight. I normally don't do these on Saturdays, but as my wife predicted, I would be bored through the entire weekend without my wife and my daughters home. And so they'll be back by Tuesday. And so I'll have quite a bit going on. Yes, I am stealing from I'm stealing from Mike. I guess he's in Alabama, right? So I'm probably getting his weather. Let's see. My wife is sending me a text. The girls are standing in line, waiting to. Yes, they're standing in line. They are safe. They're standing in line for a concert. They're going to go see a Jonas Brothers concert tonight, and then they're all off to the Jersey Shore for 2.5 days of a girls' vacation away. So that's why I'm free. So let's see. Yes, the feared Dracofowl. Yeah, that thing was tough as hell. I wish I could bring pictures of it. I mean, it would be insane to find like an emulator. I'm sure that there is one. and and just to see how difficult that game was. And to this day, I don't recall if I ever actually beat that dragon. I probably did, but I just don't recall. So yeah, so I'm going to be focusing, on that, plus any topics that any of you want to bring to the table. As always, I'm going to throw an invitation out there. If anyone wants to join in the feed, and here goes that. And so that is there. 3 days to yourself sounds like a perfect time for an impromptu D&D session. Starts warming up the dice. Yeah, that would be great. That would be great, Andrew. I got to think, like tomorrow. I know tomorrow I am going to see. I'm going to go visit my mother, and then go and see a movie with my older brother. We're going to go see The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is kind of like that Dracula movie. So I will come back with some, word about that movie and how cool it was. Maybe it'll give us some good content for a vampire-inspired adventure, for any genre, any game out there. So anyway, let's see. So I will have to monitor my phone every once in a while, listen for my dog if she starts crying, and get right into this. So let me throw out my first banner here. And so I'd like to start off the discussion with how do we play CRPGs within the broader RPG hobby? All right. So love to hear any of your comments on that topic. And when I say how do we place it, what I mean is in importance and in influence. I mean, they both started around the same time, and if we really focus on like 1980, let's say, so in 1980, that I think is when Dungeons and Dragons really got its legs under it, and other tabletop role-playing games as well at that time. And then the 80s was really a surge of both tabletop role-playing games and console RPGs. And when I'm talking about these console RPGs, I'm talking about the Legends of Zelda, the Final Fantasies, the Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls came in the 90s. But games along those lines, or game series along those lines. Hey, how's it going, Sean?
Hello.
Good to have you in here. So that's basically what I'm talking about. Oh, that's interesting. I don't see our names
because you've got a banner up. The names will disappear when you put the banner down.
Oh, it's because of the banners? No, that's interesting. Let's see if we can do this. It says show display names. Very, very odd. Let me try to turn it off and turn it back on again. It's not working today. All right. So anyway, it says it down at the bottom, but it doesn't say it on the screen, which is very odd. But anyhow, so welcome, Sean. Good to see you.
Hello. And hello. Sorry, I got to do the voice.
You are Mage's Musings. So I'm not as sophisticated as Max is with getting those things, but I will, once we're done, put up the links for your channel and anybody else who joins on for your channels into the into the description of the live stream. You could always send that to me as a starred or a private message, and then I will transfer it over to you as well. So I'll just take it from there and throw it elsewhere. So anyhow, rambling a little bit. I'm very all over the place trying to monitor three different things going on.
Saturday chill stream
has started to cut down a little bit. So let's see. So here we go. I think it's obvious that the 4th and 5th edition D&D were heavily influenced by CRPG mechanics, with resting, restoring all hit points, and clickable power abilities. Yeah, I mean they were especially fourth edition, I think was really designed to try to piggyback off of World of Warcraft, and they really wanted to try to get, and they've always struggled to get that kind of a population of game players over to the tabletop role playing hobby. And to be honest with you, I just don't think it could be done. And now we're seeing the reverse now, right? Where we're seeing with Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, they're actually looking to just go the route of a virtual tabletop that performs more like a video game than it does a tabletop virtual tabletop
Right.
experience
Yeah.
that most of us are familiar with. And I think that with the success of Baldur's Gate 3, which, despite some of its
Questionable content.
yeah, some of its questionable content, it's apparently selling really well. And and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. And if that's going to be a huge population, and they're believing that that is going to translate back over to the tabletop role playing game, people are going to start playing 5e or 6e. It's not going to happen. It's just not. It doesn't work that way. But anyway, let's see what Andrew has to say. I still remember my first CRPG. Can't begin to tell you how many times I died of dysentery. Oh, so you're talking about Oregon Trail.
Trail, yes.
Right? Now, would Oregon Trail be considered a role-playing game?
No, I think it's more of a strategy sort of.
Yeah, it's more of a strategy. I was trying to think of, did you select a different profession for your guy? I don't believe so. I don't believe that you had skills per se. You just had gear that you had to purchase. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a role playing game.
But back in the day, I guess it was close enough.
Hell, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. You have to choose to. You have to choose to fuck that bear. All right.
I see. I have to wonder about that bear scene because I've read that it was actually a glitch. I might be incorrect, or what I read might be incorrect, but it was a glitch. It's the character wasn't supposed to be in bear form. It was part of the algorithms. Old cutscenes. If you've changed clothes or transformed, the transformation doesn't translate to the cutscene in older games.
Okay.
I think that was the glitch came about because they were trying to incorporate transformations into cutscenes, right?
Right.
And probably somebody forgot to deactivate it for that. It may or may not be true. That's what I was reading, but it's out there. It's out there now. So the internet's going to run with it, and all that misinformation is going to take hold, assuming it is not in fact true.
Yeah. And I don't think it was a glitch either. I mean, it's very similar to The Lion King when he flops down and you see the word sex in the dust.
Right.
That was absolutely intentional.
Yeah.
And this may very well have been intentional as well, and possibly very similar circumstance, right? Somebody disgruntled. If it was meant to be changed, then they left it as is and let it roll with that. Although I still find that hard to believe.
Yeah, no, and Magnificent Devil here says that he saw the footage, and so he's a little more versed on it than me. But I just remember reading somewhere that it might have been blown out of proportion. So it doesn't hurt to look into that angle to see. Okay.
Yeah, they probably showcased it unintentionally. They showcased the scene intentionally.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's just too much. There was too much around it that perhaps they were looking to get some shock value and get more eyes on the game. At that point, I think wholly it was probably unnecessary to do that, and so. I think the game would have probably been a success regardless. I mean,
Baldur's
I've seen
Gate's
more
huge.
positive comments about it, that the fact that they've who is it? Larian Studios has said that there won't be microtransactions, and that is what got more people even looking at it. I mean, I'm still not going to pick it up, because it's just not, it's just not the kind of game that I like. Um, I have other D&D games or D&D based games like Neverwinter and I mean, practically Guild Wars is practically a D&D game as well, and they just get really boring fast.
Yeah.
It's like grind and that kind of thing. So
I can't, like, years ago I probably would have salivated at Baldur's Gate 3 because I played the hell out of the first two.
yeah,
But the requirements for games far exceeded my desire to get the technology capable of running the games.
yes,
So I'm running on a 10-year-old computer that I'm afraid is going to fry just by being in a live stream. So let alone playing a hyped up video game.
yeah,
That, and I don't know, I find as I get older, I prefer the tabletop. I prefer, analog. And even video game wise, when I play a video game, I've got a Nintendo Mini. I'm playing Final Fantasy 1 and enjoying the hell out of that,
yeah.
I don't need to go to Baldur's Gate 3.
Yes, and I mean, I did something very similar. I mean, I tried to go back. Actually, on YouTube, I had mentioned that I was gonna, I let people pick which game on Steam that I had that I, will take a revisit at, and Age of Conan came up. So I was like, all right, let me see, and I couldn't get neither of the older versions of it to work on my thing. So I guess, I don't know if they've actually shut it down or it's just too I'm certainly not going to pay to play it. I don't see that there's a free version of it any longer. So I'm probably not going to do that one, but I was thinking about picking up something and spending a little time with that on the channel and running through it. I did the Skyrim thing, but Skyrim is kind of, it's kind of flat at this point. In my mind, it's not, it's what, 15 years old at this point. So it's it's not exactly drawing either my focus. Skyrim, I've always played characters from like 1 to 20 and then kind of grew bored with it.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's only so much you
same
can
thing
do.
with World of Warcraft. I play like 1 to 20 and then I'm done. Go ahead. I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No. I put my time into Skyrim. I don't even want to guess how many hours I've lost to that game.
Yeah.
And yeah, it gets to the point where it's like, okay, I'm just doing this again. Even a new quest still follows the same beats, so there's only so much you can do.
Right.
I just about 2 hours ago, we just wrapped up my bi-weekly AD&D first ed game, and playing a scenario I've run before, but new players,
right,
taking a whole new thing. It's all a brand new experience. It's fantastic, and that to me, trumps anything a computer is going to give me, no matter how pretty it is, no matter how wonderful the music is.
Right.
You're getting old when.
Yeah, and I was looking for my copy of Dead Red Redemption, or however you say it, and 2, and I forget, it was on my old computer. I don't know if I transferred it over to my new. I got to see how I was actually, because I didn't have it on Steam ever. It wasn't on Steam when I first loaded it in, and I made the mistake of erasing it and then going back, and then I lost all the stuff the extras that I bought for it. There was like a starter pack, like a bonus starter pack that they stripped away if you restarted a new character, which, they probably warned you not to do it, but to me it was kind of a shit move. So I really didn't touch it after messing around with it for a bit. I did make my return to like Fallout. Started rolling with Fallout 3. and playing that. That was always my favorite Fallout. Was Fallout 3.
I love New Vegas, but I really liked 3.
Yeah, a lot of people keep on saying New Vegas was really, really good. And, once I mess around enough with Fallout 3, that I've always played until I either, disabled the bomb or let the bomb go off. And then it's been a long time since I've touched New Vegas. And 4, I never liked 4. I just didn't like it. It was too time consuming, too much I had to put into it. So the first Ultima PC game was great till I misplaced some of the puzzle keys that came with it, which made the game practically impossible to play.
That's the early copyright protection puzzle keys, right?
Probably, yeah. And then Skyrim has tons of mods, which make it a whole new game. Physics-based combat, VR. I don't like VR. AI, acting, NPCs, new texture, shadows. Yeah, I know there's tons and tons of mods to it. You're still playing the same game. It's still Skyrim. It's not going to change the fact that it's Skyrim. And it's as great a game as it is. After playing it for like 10 years, it's kind of stale. I had the same thing with EVE Online. I played EVE Online for like 12 years, and I have ships that you can't get in that game anymore, and people were offering me, and I wish I jumped on it, but I was offered like $600 real money for a ship that you can't get in the game anymore. I should have jumped on that.
Sure, I'll give you my digital fake ship for real money. Thank you.
Yeah, I really should have. Well, they would have had to take the whole account.
Right.
I don't think you could trade ships. At least back then you couldn't. I'd have to transfer the whole account. But anyway.
Kronk is asking about Elden Ring. And I kept hearing
all
about it.
No, I haven't. I've looked at it. It's got mixed reviews, doesn't it?
I kept hearing good things, but
yeah, I've heard good things about it, but I've also heard that it's let me see. I've heard good things about it, yes, but it also has mixed reviews. I had it on my wish list for a long time, and then eventually I took it off. So let's see. Elden Ring. On top of that, Elden Ring is still...
Magnificent Devil says people who like hard games like it. People who don't like hard games hate it.
It's actually very positive. So people who like hard games like it. And yeah, I mean, it looks phenomenal. It's mostly positive. Yeah, so it's still mostly positive. And it's still $60-$70. It's still $60.
It's too new for me.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 1, baby. Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah.
Oh, how did you ever get into back in the day the Bard's Tale?
I don't remember if I probably played it on the console. I probably played that on the console. So during the, I mean, we played so much. I was a big Dragon Warrior fan. All right, in the 80s. That was probably on either Sega or PlayStation 1. I think that was Sega. There was so I love Dragon Warrior. I liked Chrono Trigger. I liked there was the Legend of the Dragoons was another one that was really good, that I really enjoyed. There was it was Final Fantasy. I was never a big Legend of Zelda fan, to be honest with you, but it's a huge franchise. I mean, if they ever convert that to a tabletop role-playing game, which I know that they're kind of working on, and it's going to probably come through Critical Role, they because they already worked with them to produce something, and they did that one shot. Um, that could be a huge tabletop role playing game, and that's something I wanted to talk a little bit about here too. Is that there's a lot of crossover within the various entertainment hobbies of fantasy and sci-fi and all that. So I mean, we've seen tabletop role playing games become video games, become TV shows, become movies. We've seen video games become books, and vice
Mhm.
versa, and tabletop role playing games. We've seen movies become both. There is so much within the RPG hobby that just draws upon different just genres of and modes of relaying that content, that it's I really do think that there's so much influence by, in particular, video games on the tabletop hobby, that I think it's almost co-equal. At least that's my seeing it. I mean, when you compare the numbers, other numbers are dwarf that in a tabletop hobby.
Well, yeah, video game industry is huge. I guess the real question is, what are the positive and negative elements of the computer RPGs on the tabletop? Um, I mean, and I would hesitate. I would venture to say that there are a few good things that have
Mhm.
come from computer RPGs to tabletop, but there's also a boatload of negatives.
Yeah, I think that the negatives are that um, people expect to see the same gameplay translated seamlessly over from one to the other, and it never works that way.
No.
You know, I mean, you might have a better chance of translating tabletop role playing pen and paper to a computer game than vice
And
versa.
vice versa. Yeah. Um, well, I mean, things like fourth edition. Now, I'm not super versed in fourth edition. It's the one D&D version I never played. But my understanding is they try to account for everything. Like it is a tabletop video game, from measurements and movement, and somebody said earlier, quick heal buttons and stuff like that, clickable
Yeah,
features. Um, so that's probably arguably the most extreme situation. Like even Fifth Ed dialed it
right.
back. Although Fifth Ed kept a lot of that, they dialed it back a lot. Not everything has a mechanical button. You can go back to the old ways of just winging it and making it up as you go and figuring it out, making rulings instead of rules. Yeah,
Yeah,
Neverwinter Nights was good. I actually liked Neverwinter Nights.
yeah.
Other
I
than
liked it initially when it first came out, and then I think it may have changed. They changed some of the game mechanics of it, I think, after it first launched. Hold on a second. I just got to up my volume here. And yeah, I think it changed a little bit there. That ran into some controversy with the market, and having to buy certain things. So
right.
microtransactions, and it had a big to do over the microtransactions, and a lot of people left it. Um,
See, I played it long after the fact. I bought
yeah,
it for $5 on Steam when
yeah,
the pandemic started, and I was like, "Oh, this game's actually pretty good."
yeah. It was fun. It was entertaining to play. Very easy, even on harder settings. It was not a difficult game to play. Um, and again, kind of, you got kind of tired. Like, I got very tired of it fast. It was like another one of those where I'd play for the first 20 levels, and then, all right, let me try a different class and play that up to the first 20 levels, and so on and so forth, until I got to the point where it's like I'm kind of done with this game. And I've tried to make returns to it here and there, and be like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this and everything like that. It's not a bad game. It's certainly a decent game. Wow, it is raining like hell.
Magnificent Devil saying here he thinks you're thinking of D&D Online, not Neverwinter Nights. He doesn't remember.
Well, same thing. I mean, there's not that much difference between the two. Neverwinter is just more polished than D&D Online.
I'm thinking we're talking about Neverwinter Nights from 20 years ago, not a recent Neverwinter game.
Yeah, maybe that too. I'm talking about the MMO.
No, the Neverwinter Nights wasn't an MMO. It was you could have multiplayer for sure, but it wasn't a massive multiplayer. Two different things. Neverwinter Nights did have a DM option where you could DM people through a dungeon that you created, and it had a crafter, but it wasn't an online MMO that you had to sign into like World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't play it back in the day. I played it, 10 years
Right.
after, 20 years after the fact. So it just came as a complete package for me when I downloaded it from Steam.
Right. I think I'm going to have to run and grab my dog and bring her up here. I got my wife texting me saying, make sure you have her walk around too. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I got to take care of the dog. She's not worried about me. She's worrying about the dog.
I'll just admire your wonderful shelf while you're gone.
Yeah. I will be right back. It'll take me 2 minutes.
Dum 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 dum. Let's do some elevator music. Dum 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 dum. So somebody say something in the chat, and I'll see if I can respond to it. Nothing worse than dead space on a live stream. I like the fact that he's got his Osric book prominently displayed there. What else can I see? Conan poster, some D&D First Ed stuff. Always my jam. Star Trek game down at the bottom there. Very nice. Who likes Harn? See, I keep hearing about Harn. I've never played it. People who I know tell me that it's very simulationist, that there's a lot of details, a lot of roles and stuff like that. I may be wrong. That's what I hear. No, I think I hear him.
Okay, I'm back. We'll see. She should be fine there.
I did my best to prevent dead air while you were gone.
Okay.
I'm not the talker. Some of the others are, like Max Liao.
Yeah.
He can just go.
Yeah, Andrew, I see that you log into Guild Wars 2 every once in a while. I started playing that about 6 months ago. Going back to it, and maybe I'll tap back into that again a little bit. You're okay, Belle. Just lay there. Let's see. So another game I spent a lot of time on was Pillars of Eternity. That's a pretty good game. That's one of those isometric games, from top-down view.
The last new game I played was Diablo 3. And that was because I had a PS3 and it came out on PS3. I guess it wasn't new by the time it was out on PS3, but
Right.
But I sunk many an hour into that one, that's for sure. But same idea. Like it just at one point, it just I'm just going out and killing things. It's push button, kill things, take loot. Push button, kill things, take loot.
Right.
And it was like, meh. And that's something to this day I don't think computer RPGs will ever get. They'll always become repetitive at some point. They'll never have that versatility that you're going to get with real people at the table. And I challenge any computer programmer to make that game, to make the game that just doesn't get too stale. That there will always be something to find. I wonder if they could do that by programming in certain algorithms like the random dungeon generator, like you get in first edition. You get the first edition DMG has a random dungeon generator that you can just play tabletop, forever just doing that. When you program something like that into a computer where it's always going to be different, you might get longevity. It's been coding and scripting adventure player both for 20 minutes.
Yeah. So Andrew's talking about Guild Wars 2, new expansion coming later this month. Solo RPG. Hey, how's it going? It's been a long time since I played a CRPG. I used to spend days playing them, but now. I used to take off from work when a game was supposed to release and sit there and be like through that whole first day of launch day and spend 5 hours waiting to get through the queue and then go in, and then it was unplayable for the first couple of hours to half a day, and it was like, holy cow. Like World of Warcraft, when that launched, that was by far the worst launch I've ever experienced after playing about, over the time, over 50 MMOs. And that took the top spot as the worst launch I've ever seen. I mean, that the characters used to twirl like tops when you would get these lag spikes, and it was just unbelievable how unplayable that game was for the first couple of days. It was unplayable. And then the best launch that I recall was City of Heroes. Was phenomenal launch right from the get-go. You could play that game, almost no glitches at all, smooth as anything, just running right through it. It was, so many games were like hit or miss for those first couple of days. Sword Coast Legends was a decent launch, but you could burn through that content in about 4 days. And then there was like nothing. There was nothing left over. Great concept. I mean, if Wizards of the Coast put just an ounce more effort into that game, it could have really been what they're looking for the VTT to be now. They could have had that back in whatever that was, 2016 or so. They would have been, well, 16 or maybe it was 18 or so. And they abandoned it very, very quickly. Within 6 months, they abandoned it, almost completely. So it was and now you can't even run it. They don't even run the servers anymore. I think you could play single player, but not multiplayer any longer. Go ahead.
I was just about to say, James pops in. He says a DAOC. Which game is that?
Oh gosh. Daok is of Camelot. Dark Ages of Camelot? Dark Ages of Camelot. Yeah, that was a big one.
I'm so out of the loop.
Yeah. Dark Ages of Camelot. That's one that kind of fell off my radar. Because I was involved with so many. Oh shit. What am I doing here? I'm texting my wife the entire conversation that we had. So let's get back to this and see.
She's gonna get this massive text. What's this guy on about?
Yeah, what the heck did I do? I don't even know how to get rid of it all. Okay. I'll have to just do this. To be like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah, it literally just texted the last 20 minutes of our talk.
Did it send or
no, I didn't send it. I was like, what the hell's going on here? I thought she was texting me. I was like, all right. She's worried because my daughters are at a concert at Yankee Stadium, which is open air. So she's hoping that this storm doesn't make it to them in that time too. Yeah, it got the entire conversation. I'm going to let you in a second, Andrew. Here we go.
Hello,
All
hello.
right.
Hello.
Hey, and DM James, if you want to jump in, the invite is on there. I'll put it up again because I'd love to hear about Dark Ages of Camelot. Literally, that was off my radar. I knew about it. I looked into it at the time. I was playing so many other things at the same time, like Age of Conan came out around that same time. So we're talking like 2009-ish. And there was there were so many really good games out there. Then I was doing Pirates of the Burning Sea. um, I was actually like my early 2000s was more because I wasn't in tabletop role playing games at that time. From like 2002 to 2015, I was doing nothing but MMOs. And that included like alpha testing and beta testing and working on their forums. I was an official moderator for Bethesda for their Sea Dogs game, and then that was supposed to become an MMO, and instead they went with Pirates of the Caribbean tie-in, which still wasn't an MMO, and then the Pirates of the Burning Sea came out. I was really involved with that. I was so early in alpha. I was sailing ships before there was water. That's how early it was. I was probably like the first 5 people in that game, along with the developers, and dealt with that game for like 4 years, and then just moved on to other things. So MMOs were like just huge from early 2000s through the mid 2010s, 2015, 16, 17. And then again, I think it just kind of petered down. I think a lot of people just got burnt out from them. Hey, Rational Ginger, good to see you. And yes, this is an impromptu live stream because I am solo for the next 3.5 days, and figured let me jump in. Hey, James.
Hello, James.
Hey, good to see you. I think this is the first time you've been on my live stream.
No, I've been on your live stream.
Oh, yeah?
Before, like
it's been a long
weeks
time
ago.
then. Yeah.
Yeah. And I watched your thing last night, I believe. You guys were talking about all kinds of stuff.
Oh, with Max, yeah.
Yeah. Dark Age of Camelot, what set it apart from every other MMO is it introduced the concept of realm versus realm combat.
Mm-hmm.
So there were 3 realms. There was the Celtic Hibernians, the Norse, and Asgardians, and then of course the Britons. Camel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically an EQ clone, except after you hit max level and thought you had decent gear, you could run out into the actual world and try to take over castles and get in huge battles with members of the other realms. Yeah. So I must have played that game for about 8 years.
Yeah. Age of Conan was supposed to launch with that, but it took them about 2 years to implement the that battle system, that kind of domain control system.
Right. In Dark Age of Camelot, I ran a guild called Kingdom of Hibernia.
Mm-hmm.
And we had designed our own cloaks that had their patterns on them and colors. And when we would conquer a castle, I could pay points that you gain from fighting enemy players to have the castle fly that flag above it. And
Right.
so there was a lot of rivalry between different members from different realms.
Right.
And I was on the Palamides server, which was the best server of all of them. But like I said, it was mostly an EQ clone.
Yeah.
And I'd been playing EQ1, and the guild I was in, we were on Brel. And everybody's like, hey, have you seen this game? You can do this, this, and this. And I was like, okay, let's go check it out.
Right.
I played a Celtic hero, which was the Hibernian tank class.
Mm-hmm.
And as a Celt, I had the blue paint across my face.
Nice. But the handprint, right? the blue handprint.
Yeah, it was such a fun game. It's still going, except they expect you to pay $15 a month for it.
Yeah.
And like 90% of the player base speaks only French.
Sacre bleu.
Yeah. So I logged on to fall back, and I'm running around on my maxed out character. And I killed a bunch of people. And then it was like, I was like, what language is this? And then I figured it out. I was like, they're all speaking French. Everyone is speaking French.
I was just going to point out Magnificent Devil here, bringing up Pirates of the Burning Sea. The other really unique thing about Pirates of the Burning Sea that you were able to upload your own flags and sail designs, and absolutely awesome. And unfortunately, when you were able to still transfer those over to when the game companies changed over and they bought basically the servers and everything, and you could have still had all of that stuff. However, we had I owned the upload for the flags, and another player owned the upload for the sails. And when he passed away, we basically kind of lost the access to the upload of it. But the company and its new holder now, I don't think it's owned by Flying Labs anymore, or Flying Buffalo or something like it was something like that. They never re-implemented that, and that was something that a lot of people were really drawn to the game, was just being able to customize your ships for their sails and their flags. It was awesome. But all right, let's see what some other comments we have here. Playing BG3. I guess that's
Baldur's Gate 3.
Playing it right now, but I can multitask. But I can multitask. All right.
Same here.
Arcade allowed you to put your own, upload your own designs onto the cells of your ship, and believe me, that was a hate crime. It was definitely not something they should have done.
Oh, so Andrew, you're playing Baldur's Gate also?
No. I was saying multitasking because.
Oh, you're multitasking. What are you playing? You're playing
Guild Wars.
Guild Wars 2. Yeah. I might pop back into that a little bit too. I was kind of looking for something new to jump into, and just like several things just weren't catching my eye. I only have one thing on my wish list again.
You guys and your fancy computers be able to run the good stuff.
Well, yeah, I got a new computer, so you see the benefit of being in the teaching profession, which I've now retired from, was that I could write off 90% of my computer every 3 years. So I was buying a new computer every 3 years because I only paid 10% of it, so I was always getting a top of the line computer every 3 years, and but now it's just worth it for me because it's my only hobby. So worth it to me to put the money into it. But anyway, I was looking for my account here. I have something on my wish list. Let's see.
I know there was a private server for Warhammer Fantasy Online that was pretty good.
Oh, the only thing I have on my wish list right now is the Starship Simulator for Star Trek, and I'll
Oh.
probably never bother with that.
I remember playing the actual Starfleet battles on computer.
Yeah, on my iPad, I play
Terrible.
Starfleet Command, and put too much money into it. It's like,
Yeah, it was just when I played it was just a green screen, and you had like the circle with 2 lines was a Federation ship, but it was literally though that game where you had to every round distribute energy to drives and this and that. And, it was pretty fun though. I need to figure out what feathers that Sharp's riflemen, what color they were.
The one computer RPG that I played the most, or I should say for the longest amount of time, had to be Ultima Online.
Oh yeah.
I probably put about 15 years into that. I was there early launch. Eventually, even got into the. They had a SEER program where players essentially could create and run little events and such for the players, and it got to be real fun until eventually the company running it no longer supported things like that, and the player base just dropped like a bad habit.
We lost Bloodworth.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I guess we're overtaking his live stream.
We will conquer. We will conquer his live stream. Now, what should we talk about? My growing up, my technology was always behind because we could never afford a top of the line computer. I mean, I had consoles, but I definitely played a lot of Bard's Tale. I played a lot of Final Fantasy on the Nintendo. I'm still playing Final Fantasy 1 on the Nintendo. It's the only Final Fantasy I ever played. I never moved past it.
I actually have Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy Tactics on my phone.
On your phone, yeah. And Baldur's Gate. I love the hell out of the first 2, and Icewind Dale. Icewind Dale I liked too, but it wasn't the same as Baldur's Gate. The first 2.
I think I had the first Legend of Zelda on my phone too.
Yeah, I got that on my NES Mini.
Bought me a NES, and it's like this big.
Yeah, the NES Mini. I have that. Yeah.
And so I've played Final Fantasy 1 on that, and Legend of Zelda, and Excite Bike.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that NES Mini was a sort of a missed opportunity because they fixed the games, and what they should have done was given you a packet where you could download the games onto it, the one you want, and then have a selection. Like, for example, Tecmo Bowl comes. I'm not a football fan, but Blades of Steel I loved, right? If they could have gotten the rights. And the other thing is they had Castlevania 1 and 2, but where's Castlevania 3? Come on, complete the trilogy. And Super Contra instead of Contra. I mean, come on, give us the original, the iconic one. Yeah. So it was a fun little purchase, but a couple of the choices made me scratch my head.
Yeah, I'm multitasking too, guys. I am painting a regiment of Imperial handgunners. Except I've decided that I will paint them in the colors from Sharp's War. The riflemen from the show Sharp's War. So They have that kind of dull green, and they have black feathers in their hats.
I was editing my next video, and then I was looking for an excuse to procrastinate, and I saw he was doing a live stream. So next thing you know, he's like, "Oh, put the link. Come on and join." I'm like, "Oh, all right."
Dan Bloodworth is cool.
Yeah,
I only met him for the first time last night. So
really,
yeah, I would have joined the chat sooner, but I was partaking of my medicine, and I'm pretty sure he may not want that on his stream. So.
Gotcha.
So if you see me doing this, that's me taking some more medicine.
Bloodworth is trying to get back in, but on brand for the theme, he can't find his old copyright notebook for the secret code. Video games used to have that. You had the notebook.
I'll
That
tell
was
you one of my
that was the thing I was
favorite-
mentioning about the first Ultima. It came with like these little wheels and
Puzzles,
things like that, and without those puzzle keys, the game was just insane to play. Because you essentially, there was just no way you were going to guess your way through those puzzles.
That's what I was going to say. One of the games I used to love so much when I was a kid was Pull of Radiance. But in
Right.
order to play Pull of Radiance, you had that little, it had like Elvish and Dwarvish or something, and it would show you two symbols. You'd have to spin the key.
Right.
And,
The
Yep.
old school copy protection.
Yeah.
I thought of buying that because they had it on Steam for $3 once, and I was like,
I did buy it. It's on my computer.
I don't know if I could. Well, I mean, I guess I'm playing
I
Final
really
Fantasy
wish
1.
someone
So
would redo it and kind of update the UI so that it's like it's so weird. It's your movement keys are your arrow keys instead of the ASW. What I mean, it's like the way they laid it out. It's literally like really hard to play.
right.
But it's second edition AD&D, and you're running around getting into trouble in the city of Flan, which is awesome.
Yeah, I have the module that was based on that video game.
Ruins of Adventure, I think.
Ruins of Adventure, yeah.
Yep.
That I plan to run. Well, I would love to run my team through it one day, but I'm still getting them back onto Night Below so I can start recapping that the Night Below again.
Yeah, because of you, I bought the Night Below.
And what'd you think of it? Did you get it print on demand?
I did. And I read it and I thought, this is a big adventure.
It is, yeah. Well, three 60-page booklets, right?
Yeah.
And that first one alone, Adventures in Heronshire, I mean, that's a mini campaign right there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. But I never really got to get to it because, as you've probably heard ad infinitum by now, I stopped playing D&D and started running Warhammer.
Warhammer, right. Yeah, you'll get back to it.
Yeah, I will.
It's on your
I
list.
always do. But right now, everybody seems to be really loving the whole Warhammer Fantasy thing, and when I get back to D&D, it'll be AD&D or OSC Advanced, because that's pretty much the D&D I run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I run 2 games. Well, sorry, I run 3 games. I run AD&D First Ed. We just finished a couple hours ago. I run OSE, and I have a 5th Ed game that I run. That one's an online one, and it's mainly an experimental game. But the games I love are OSE and AD&D.
I ran 5e for about a year and a half, and I just got so kind of, I mean, I'm not trying to talk smack about it, but it was just like, it wasn't fun, you know?
Well, that's what my experimental rules are about. Like I've created some house rules to give it that OSR feel, and so far it's working pretty well. But then there comes a point where you ask yourself, okay, why put in the effort to make this feel OSR when I just play one of the OSR games on
why work your butt off to make 5e feel like AD&D when you could just play AD&D?
Play AD&D, yeah. I found the balance, somebody who wanted to play 5e with the old school flavor. The balance of the rules so far works. The characters, there's an extensive character graveyard, so the lethality is there, so that's working. If they're dying a lot, it's old school. And then so they're now approaching mid-levels 4 or 5 in that range, and they're learning to survive. They're learning that it's not typical 5e where they can just survive. So far so good. I'll keep playing it, but the consensus was that the group is enjoying it. Like we were talking about, I was like, yeah, we are actually enjoying the twist on it. So we'll keep going until we no longer enjoy it, and I'll just run OSE online.
There you go. My group absolutely is loving Warhammer. like more than any other game. I mean, Hungar was talking about it earlier today about, you know, how super like involved with their characters everybody is.
Right.
You know, and how his character got married. And
is that the rule set though, or just the style of play?
I think it's probably just the setting more than anything, honestly. Plus, I am running the Enemy Within campaign, which is world renowned as probably one of the best fantasy role-playing campaigns ever written.
Right.
So that helps too. And right now they're on a barge from Altdorf down the canal to Wittgenstein or whatever to try to save a pharmacist who's being held captive by a bunch of cultists, and we'll see what happens, you know. Maybe everyone will die. The system does allow for like one-shot kills though, and there's no levels really. And what you start out with as your wounds is typically just going to be that. So, right. You know, but if you roll anything to a hit that's divisible by 10, that's a critical hit. And then you roll on the crit chart. And if you roll high enough, you can just one-shot kill somebody. Just, you know, say you stab somebody in the head and you roll an 85 or higher on the crit chart. That's going to be you know, stabbed through the eye or brain bashed out or whatever.
Right.
Dead.
I always found it funny with role-playing games in general. You get a role-playing game where, you know, something like that, where the characters are vulnerable, you can be instantly killed. Things like Call of Cthulhu, where you're always going insane or instantly killed, and people celebrate it. But you try to play that way in D&D, and people revolt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a different it's a different mindset. I mean, Call of Cthulhu, I mean, people that play Call of Cthulhu have probably been playing it through, you know, for quite some time. You know, I don't know if it has as many new players to the hobby, new players to the IP as 5th edition has. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's like, so when they're coming in, they have no context to what D&D was 20, 30, 40 years ago. You know, I don't think very many Call of Cthulhu players were like, you know, their first introduction to the game was 7th edition. You know, and 7th edition isn't, you know, hasn't gotten away from that same thing, you know, insanity mechanics and you're more likely to die or whatever. It really hasn't changed that much, but D&D has, you know, and I think that's the biggest difference, is that your newer players just aren't familiar with old school D&D.
Right. No, I agree totally. And it kind of dovetails us back onto the topic. A lot of the modern D&D, you get players expecting the tabletop video game, and video game role-playing games have informed that mentality, because you make your character and you play that character until the game is done. If you die, you just reload and continue with that character. So for the tabletop, they made it so that, it's easy mode. It's so easy that you don't have to worry about death too much. Because I have played with 5th ed people who really get bent out of shape when their character dies.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's because I think the community has instilled that in them too. So the community has been the real, you know, because I don't think they got that from their individual tables. I think they got that from the internet, you know, social networks, and then brought it to their tables. You know, I think that, you know, that's the Twitter mentality that we see there with that, and it's boosted. It's definitely boosted to have that feel for it, because it's far less lethal than MMOs. Yeah, I mean, so when when you look at it, I mean, even though MMOs aren't tremendously difficult, there are challenges in MMOs that are, if you're going in with the wrong party makeup, you're not going to kill that, that end boss.
Right.
Well, I mean, what you just said, really the blame is Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes it even worse is when you see people who will make a post that a DM should never kill a player unless the player agrees to allow their character to die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then Wizards of the Coast picks that up and actually runs with it.
And makes it a rule, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you doing here? I mean, I'll tell you what, I had some 5e players join my game a couple of years ago. I was running AD&D, and one of the old school players ran through a room full of yellow mold, fell to save and throw, died
Instant.
The 5e players were like, wait, what? They're looking at me like, what just happened? And I said, he's rolling a new character because he fell to saving throw and he died. And they're like, you just die like that? I was like, yeah. Well, those two people are still playing with me.
Yeah.
Because they kind of got addicted to that. It was like, because
the thrill is there. The thrill is there.
They were like playing cutesy characters. Like the girl was playing like a purple tiefling or something and whatever. But in my game, like right now, she's playing like a human brigand, that runs around with an axe. And, so they're not cute anymore. And they realize that you can die at a moment's notice from anything.
Yeah.
And they enjoy it. I've converted so many 5e players to like OSC or AD&D, and after a couple of games, they get where they never want to go back to 5e.
Yeah, I've had the same experience with D&D Beck-Me when I ran that campaign before my current AD&D campaign. I probably introduced some 30. I probably went through about 30 different players through my D&D Beck-Me span that I was doing for about a year and a half. And of those 30 players that I introduced to D&D Beck-Me from 5e, only one stated that he was leaving to go back to 5e because he just didn't like, D&D Basic Expert.
At least he gave it a try,
he gave it a try.
Meet people who just refuse. No, I don't want to even try.
No, he gave it a try. He was the only one. All of the other ones were like, hey, this is so much better. And then when I started my my AD&D campaign, many of my players in my AD&D campaign were longtime players, but they were like, one of them actually said, it was like, wow, this is the first time that I feel like in decades that I feel like I'm playing D&D again. It was because he did go, the 4E and the 5E route and just wasn't feeling it, with that until he got back to AD&D First Edition again. So it's the older editions, 5E cannot capture the same feel. Now, I'm not saying that it's a better feel or, I'm just saying it's a totally different feel for the game. And many players, because they haven't experienced that, when they do experience it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much better.
It can be done. I'm up here in Toronto, Canada. And there's a local group, Toronto D&D, and I've run a couple of games for them. And I have to tell the players, because they're used to other DMs not letting them die. DMs who run the games there are afraid to let the players die. And I actually make a point of pre-warning. It's like, I roll the dice in front, and what happens. Right. And you'll find, I found that when people get nervous, they start getting nervous. Oh, wait, he's rolling the dice. There's no hiding. There's no fudging. And even the people used to 5e start playing smart, and the tension is there. So part of that is the DMs effectively being told, let the players have their way, let them, keep it easy for them, always balance the encounter so it's always possible, and players don't learn to run away, don't learn to play it smart. Hold on, I got a siren in the background. I'll just go on mute for a sec.
Yep. See ya, Panther. Yeah, that's we have all kinds of stuff. I think the storm is finally settling down.
The problem with 5e is less the rule set and more the philosophy of the people who are playing it, or maybe who made it. Because you can, I ran 5e for a year and a half. People can die. Things can go wrong really quick, but there's this whole weird kind of culture based around 5e. That's all like the players should always succeed at whatever they're trying to do, and no one should ever die, and you have to ask permission to use spiders in your game, and
the safe space. Chuck the challenge rating.
It's the freaking
chuck the challenge rating, chuck the chuck the death saves and the short rests, and now you have essentially AD&D 1.5. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you have to strip so much of 5e away to make a decent playing game, at least in our perspective, then you might as well just
play old school. But you don't have to take away a lot. Like the house rules I run for my 5e game, some are to give it an old school feel, some are just for fun and flavor. They have nothing to do with making it challenging, just to give it a different flavor. So, but the ones to just make it simple so you're more vulnerable, you can do with maybe a handful of house rules. And 5e is actually designed well enough that it's modular, that you can, implement house rules without derailing the entire game. So I give them credit for the way they created the game, and they've also created that it is genuinely new player friendly. So I give them points for that too.
Short rests, and I didn't use any of the optional rules, so no feats, all that sort of thing. And
I use them. I just make them choose. If you want a multi-class, you can't have feats. If you want to take a feat, then you bar yourself from multi-classing. Then they start thinking twice about what they're going to do.
I didn't allow multi-classing either. I basically played AD&D, but with the 5e rule book.
Yeah.
Right. No, that can work as well, right? You can even put the level limits in.
And there's things in AD&D that are overpowered as well. I mean, there's, I'm not a big fan of, the interpretations of the bow specialization, and you get an automatic +6, or if your bow is knocked, you shoot before initiative rolls and everything like that.
Technically those are expansion rolls.
I know. I was like, nah, I'm not, just annoying. I was like, nah, you never have a line of sight to do that.
I'm actually okay. I use those rules in my AD&D game. The only tweak I've made is that specialization cannot be acquired at first level. You have to get it later. And since bow specialization requires 3 slots, you're not getting it until you are level 10, I think. So it's 4, 7, 10. Yeah. So, and by the time you're at level 10, the power it gives you is on par with the level you're at, as opposed to a first level character having that epic, because bow specialization in AD&D is brutal, because you do double damage at point blank range. As you say, you get that free shot before initiative. But when you're at level 10, that kind of fits. That kind of fits with where the game is at. So just stagger it out. It works fine.
5e is the kindergarten of RPGs. It's an RPG with training wheels on it. It literally is. It's a training wheels, version of Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, let's get back to video games and see. So I put up a few here, and I mean, these are just a few little thoughts that I had. So let's see. So what series of computer role-playing games are comparable to D&D in influence and as industry changers.
I think Ultima Underworld for sure, and the Elder Scrolls games.
The Ultima series in general was very, very close to D&D without actually putting the D&D label on
Right. Yeah, I think that, when we look back at things like, I remember like Anarchy Online was huge, and I mean it just changed the way. Now, it's not a fantasy, but that's, I think, a benefit to it as well. I mean, of course, EverQuest and everybody, called it EverCrack because everyone was so addicted to the darn thing. Might and Magic was an incredible series, an older series before you got to. I think Might and Magic came out before Elder Scrolls.
Yes, because that's the late
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah, so Might and Magic came out before Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls really didn't kick off until Daggerfall. So it had 2 games prior to that, right? It had Arena, and
Which is
then
the
it
first
had
one.
Redguard. Yeah, or Redguard.
Was Redguard the second? I thought Daggerfall was the second.
There was no Daggerfall. Redguard came. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to look it up. And then there was a Spire one, right?
My first one was Morrowind.
That was the third one.
Yeah, that's the third. Let's see. Elder Scrolls.
I think Redguard was like an offshoot one. It wasn't part of the main
Yeah, it was
series.
it was an offshoot. You're right. But it came before Daggerfall. Wait, what the heck is this? Elder Scrolls. I just want the. Let's see. Where's the wiki? Here we go. Let's get them in order. All right. So there was Arena, then Daggerfall. Oh, Battlespire, Redguard. All right. So it was after Daggerfall.
Okay.
Although almost immediately after.
I started on Oblivion, then learned it was a whole series. I was like, wait, why have I never heard of this? And then went back, and I remember Good Old Games had the trilogy 1, 2, and 3 for $5. I'm like, I'll be grabbing this. And Arena was virtually unplayable.
Yes. Yeah, Arena was not good.
I never tried Daggerfall, but I tried Morrowind, and I found Morrowind was interesting, but it kept giving me headaches. The motion triggered something, and I kept getting migraines. I couldn't play for more than 2 minutes. So it's like, oh, that was a waste of $5.
Yeah, I had that with Elite Dangerous. I couldn't watch I couldn't play Elite Dangerous because of that same thing, the motion. I think the motion triggered my childhood epilepsy. So I was like, I just couldn't take I can't take strobing. Any kind of strobing just really messes me up.
See, that's so weird because I have that with first-person shooters, but it didn't start until I was in my mid-40s. Like, up until I was in my mid-40s, I used to play the hell out of all the Battlefield games. I played competitively. And then one day I logged on and went to play, and I felt like I was going to throw up. Yeah. And I've never been able to play a first-person shooter since then. Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe I got a tumor in my brain pushing on something or whatever, but I just...
It's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
So, if I do lose power again, it should click back on again, but I'll have my iPad as a quick backup in case.
I liked Elder Scrolls Online.
I wanted to play it.
But it was.
I don't even remember why I stopped playing it.
There was some good parts to it. I actually like it better than starting with. I like it better than starting with just a regular, Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Like, I like the beginning of it, and the fact that you start in different areas, than what you had in Skyrim. So Skyrim's just probably a more smoother game system, but online wasn't bad.
I played a Dark Elf Dragon Knight. So all I remember is that continent, where if you went far to the south, you started running into where the lizard people lived. And if you went far, far to the north, you ran into where the Vikings lived.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you cross the sea, the island there is where the High Elves were.
Mm-hmm.
And you could fight each other, which was kind of cool.
What I liked about Daggerfall was that you can actually get into the CD-ROM and you could print out every single book and scrap paper or whatever that was actually in the game. And I did it. I filled up an entire binder. It was something like 500 pages of a book in that thing. And I had this huge binder. And I sold it at a yard sale along with all of my other stuff because someone was like, "Oh, how much for that?" You know, and I wish I never gave it up because you can't get the same thing back from the reprints of the Elder Scrolls CD-ROMs anymore. But I was like, I wish, and I'm surprised that I don't think that they have that on, or you have to keep on messing around and reformatting it. They have an Elder Scrolls archive, right? Like a library website that has all of that stuff too, but you have to cut and paste everything in order to do the same thing. So let's see. Morrowind got to level 55, but the computer crashed, never touched the main plot. Yeah, I never played the main plot anyway. All I did was I spent my time stealing from houses and collecting skoma. I had a house full of skoma in Morrowind.
Yeah, that gave me a quick thought. I mean, going back to Ultima Online, what was great is one of the first assignments I got when I started joining the the quote unquote development team. I wasn't developing the game any, but they asked me, what's something you enjoy doing, and I told them, I says, one of the things I love doing is trying to make a game do something it wasn't necessarily designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually put me in charge of finding different exploits in the game, and
Right.
because the game was originally just the Felucia server side where it was 100% PvP all the time. There were tons and tons of ways of getting people and killing people and things like that in that game. It was so much fun just exploring those different options and actually knowing that even though I was exploiting the game, they would never kick me for it because that's what they were asking me to do.
Yeah, that's a lot of the work that I did as well, during alpha and beta testing was the same thing. It was bug reporting. You were just looking to, hey, try this out, break this system, see how many of you can go into this one, space, and wait to see if the game crashes. I mean, that was even with like EVE Online, we did that a lot. Star Wars Galaxies, I did that as well. Early on in that game system, all of those games I was in alpha or beta for. Like I said, Pirates of the Burning Sea. Literally, we were just sailing a boat frame on a grid. There was no water whatsoever, and it was just like, all right, let's just see if you can move this way, that way. Oh, I just fell through the earth, and I came out the other end. It was like, it was really fun to see games at that stage, as they kind of develop over time. Now, the one experience that I had with that kind of beta testing that was not good was Pathfinder Online. It's horrible all the way through till, I mean, you were in the river kingdoms and the rivers had no water 2 years after launch, what they considered launch. And probably one of the one of the worst experiences I've seen, and had with an MMO at launch and even a year after launch. It was just unbelievable. Thank God I got someone who was willing to pay me $400, which is what I paid for the Kickstarter, to get in that early. And someone paid me $400 for my account. I was like, thank God I broke even. But it was, just a horrible game, and still not as bad as World of Warcraft on the first day though. that was by far an unplayable game.
Well, I think it's good that some video games are poster children for switching to tabletop.
Yeah, yeah, and that actually was the game that was actually the game that brought me away from MMOs and to tabletop games. Was that game, in particular. And then I was burnt out. That was 2015, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna go back to tabletop role playing again.
Yeah, the first day of World of Warcraft or whatever, there was so many, like millions of people trying to log on all at once.
Yeah.
It just was not going to happen.
Yeah.
I played that game up to like level 19 and realized I just completely hated everything about it. And then I went and started playing EverQuest 2, which was okay. But, I don't know. You can't go home. You know what I mean?
I think the reason I left WoW,
Arcades of Camelot.
The reason I quit out of WoW, because one day I got so fed up. I said, you know what? I'm leaving this server, and I'm going to try to find a server that the general chat isn't played with Chuck Norris jokes. And after like 30 servers, I said, okay, I'm done with this game.
That was only in Barron's. That was only Barron's chat was the Chuck Norris jokes.
It was everywhere at one point.
Yeah.
It was way too bad.
You don't leave a server with Chuck Norris jokes. The Chuck Norris joke server leaves you.
Yeah. I left it at the time of just before Burning Crusades, and I left it, and then I went back to it about 2 or 3 years ago when they first launched the Classic, that you could pay and play Classic, and I just like the crafting mechanics of Classic are 100 times better than their new version of crafting. But it's still a game that I only like playing it up to like level 20 or so, and then I'm kind of bored with it again. So, it's not a game that I would probably go back to, a third time, because I've already gone back to it twice in the last decade, and I couldn't see myself going back to it. Just like I can't see myself going back to EVE Online. I just spent too much time with it, and just trying to get back into that whole mentality of the community on it, because it's only one server, and by far the best gaming community I've encountered in an MMO, because everybody kind of knew their role in that kind of thing. Like, you knew where the pirates were, and the pirates were, you knew where the Russian pirates hung out, and they kind of controlled certain systems, and they always played the same way, and they kind of had a code of ethics that they used. And then you knew where the corporates, the big corporates were, and you knew where the megacorps were, and it was just something that developed organically for the most part, and it was just a really, really good community. You could find your niche in there and just play for years without ever having to break away from your gameplay. So that's what I liked about it, but it just, game mechanics wise, was just too grindy, and real time grind. Say again?
Were you around when Bob came
in? Yes, I was there for it.
Yeah.
Ryan Dancy was one of the devs fired for that. He was the main dev that was manipulating the content for them.
Yeah.
You know, and he left CCP and went to ISO directly from there. And that's why Ryan Dancy was the wrong person to do Pathfinder Online, because Pathfinder Online was supposed to be a PvP game, and Ryan Dancy hated PvP from EVE Online. So he was absolutely the wrong person to head that up.
Yeah, I pretty much hated PvP on EVE Online too. I worked up until I got the Kestrel, and I made it as fast as I could make it. And then I'd go out to do whatever. And if I seen anybody come up on the radar, I'd just be like, catch me if you can.
I had the Sleipnir with, you know, which is a command ship, a Mimitar command ship with large fittings, which they eventually got rid of, and you couldn't. So I still had mine, and that was the ship that somebody offered me $600 real money to buy my account just to have that ship. I should have done it. I should have gave it up.
There was a lot of EVE Online. There was a lot of real world money getting passed around.
Yeah. I mean, not as much as Star Citizen, but yes, there was real money passing.
Right.
Actually, one of my members got he picked up a negative. He didn't get banned for life, but he picked up like a negative one or 2 billion ISK penalty for buying ISK. I think he bought like 150 million ISK, and he got hit with a minus 2 billion ISK penalty on his account. And that was back when, you know, it was a big deal to hit 10 million ISK. Yeah, I mean, that was before Jump to Life, you know, Jump to Zero. That was before, you know, I'm talking like early 2000 or late 2002, early 2003.
I remember those times.
6 months of the game.
Everybody was out there trying to freaking mine rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I think I played Caldor.
Yeah, I always played Mimitar. I liked the rounds, you know. I like the munitions.
Yeah, Caldor was all about missiles.
Yeah.
It had a lot of missile boats, which is what the Kestrel was. It was just really, really fast with a lot of missiles.
Yeah, I forget what the best ship, you know, pound for pound, basically. The best ship was I think it was a Caldari ship, actually. It was the best ship in the game. It was a Caldari ship. And I can't think of which one it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Kestrel. It was the upgraded Kestrel.
Yeah, because there was.
Yeah, it was the tiered up Kestrel. Was the best ship in the game. I was able to fly everything, command ship and below, for every single faction at maximum skills. I had maximum skills across the board. The only thing I didn't go into was capital ships, but battleship and below, I had everything. Every single skill. I had like 120. I want to say 120 million skill points. By that point, that was after about 10 years of play, and that was an awesome game. It really was. It just too repetitive, just too, you know, well, especially if we were ice mining and stuff like that. But I was more of a combat ship anyway.
That'd be true of any video game after a long enough timeline. They all get repetitive.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of and they start looking like each other too. It's like if the gameplay is just that much, it's like you know, like, can I really jump back into Guild Wars 2 after playing Neverwinter for 6 months? No, they're virtually the same game. You know, they're virtually the same game, and it's the same thing with the isometric ones too. It's like I played Pillars of Eternity, and then there's the what is it? The Shroud of Avatar, and all of those things are all the same. There's very, very little innovation in them. Let's see, some comments on Pathfinder Online has gone down as one of the worst MMOs ever. Yes, it was. It absolutely was. It was just, they only had like 5 people working on it. And one of the individuals that was working on it was actually, I forget, I think it was Lee Hammock. So Lee Hammock was well known for designing the economic system in Fallen Earth. All right, and an award-winning designer for that. That was like the 5th best economy in any MMO ever created. So and it was a very, very good system. So he was working on that, and in that, and then there was maybe 2 other. He only had like 2 other people working on it. They had a very, very small team. And then it was headed up by Ryan Dancy, who was a buffoon when it came to creating an MMO, because he was doing the sales pitch that this is going to be a PvP game, and yet he personally despised PvP. He wanted to make it where it's like, well, you have a fight, but they can't take your gear. And then
your PvP, do it right.
Yeah, if you're going to kill somebody, you don't get their gear, but you gain a negative reputation, so that the guards will start attacking you. You can't even go into towns anymore. It's like, but I killed him. He respawned. I got nothing of his, and there were so many penalties for PvP that nobody would PvP, and that was pretty much the death of the game. Was that you can't have it both ways. So he was always a pansy when it came to doing PvP.
Any of you guys ever play Latro?
What?
Oh yeah, I played that.
Lord of the Rings.
Played that for a long time. The mail run for a Hobbit character was a pain in the ass, though. I hated that whole string of things. But I played that, and I played when they released the Wardens. I played the Warden up. I love that class. The Warden was an awesome class. It was
the Warden's pretty crazy.
Yeah. The Warden was a lot of fun, and it was piggybacking off of the 300. So you had your shield and spear, and it was just an awesome combination. But that was one of the best role-playing communities, and that was one of the things we were talking about this on Max's stream, where it was like that was the one game that if you had a name that didn't match the lore, you'd get kicked off the server. It's like they would start reporting you, and they would come in, and it was actually written in the TOS that your names. Well, first they started off, your names could not be copyrighted names elsewhere, right? So you can be Frodo or Luke Skywalker or anything like that. But then they got to the point where they're like, no, your name has to be appropriate for the setting.
That's absurdly extreme.
Yeah, but you know what? Because their bread and butter was the fact that it was the most RP of all MMOs at the time. I can see why they don't want somebody being Rat Boy, and or
Rat Boy is awful, but Wormtongue is acceptable.
Well, no, you couldn't be Wormtongue because that's a copyrighted name. But
right. But what I'm saying is, it's like, okay, Rat Boy is unacceptable in that world, but a name like Wormtongue would exist, or what was the other one? Lickspittle.
It's just something that they you couldn't be Charlie Brown. That was the kind of thing that they, even though that's a copyrighted name, you couldn't be your own name in there as well. It couldn't be an obvious, this is my real name either. So anyhow, let's see. So interested in hearing opinions on Castles and Crusades. Who's a fan? Well, I'm certainly a fan.
It's a great game.
Would Castles, so what what CRPG is closest to Castles and Crusades? So kind of like that. That's Castles and Crusades is a little bit more mythology based than AD&D is, let's say. So I don't know if there's an MMO that, or not an MMO, but well, what is that? The I just not Origins. What the heck is it called? Dragon or I can't think of the name. But anyway, I don't know what would be comparable to it. Thinking of it as a video game. CNC is a good game. From what I remember, it's been about 10 years since playing it. Yeah, it's the game I'm going to switch to once our AD&D first edition game comes to an end.
Heathen!
Yes. And then we're moving. We're moving to CNC. It's been 2 years. It's been almost 2 years that we've been doing our AD&D campaign. And I think the characters are pretty much around 10th level. And they're kind of wrapping up their storyline, and I think it's time to move on.
Well, the good news for the guy who hasn't played in 10 years is nothing changed.
Yeah, well,
like
their
the artwork and the editing got better, but game wise,
I think only two minor tweaks to the encumbrance system, and monk and barbarian have been changed slightly.
You're right. I mean, that was the best thing about it, is there were never.
That's it. And that was in
there were printings.
Yeah. If you kill someone in the woods, everybody will know. If you cut a tree down in the woods, it won't even fall. It's the thing that I hate the most about video games. Yeah. There's some MMOs that are, you can cut down trees and stuff like that. Life is futile. Life is futile. You can do all of that. You can actually terraform in Life is Futile.
Well, to be fair, in Skyrim, going back to Skyrim, if you murdered somebody out of the line of sight of anybody else, witnesses are gone, and you incurred no bounty. Yeah,
I've been hearing about people in Baldur's Gate 3 killing everybody, and I have to watch some of the videos to see what happens if you kill every single NPC.
Be like the cheating, like in Skyrim, where you get the important NPCs who are just unkillable. That always aggravated me. For those times I wanted to go on a murder spree. Once in a while, you just got to get it out of your system.
Yeah, the last character I was playing in Skyrim, I wanted to eventually become a vampire, and I was playing a female vampire named after the female vampire in the Conan book, and she became a vampire too fast. I just ran into a random encounter on the road, and she gained vampirism at level 5, and I was like, well, crap, I'm not looking to have it this early on. I wanted her to be like a 12th level or 10th level magic user before I became a vampire.
It's not that it isn't easily cured.
No, it's not at that low level. Yeah, it's difficult.
In Skyrim, you just go to any shrine and pray.
Really?
Yep, any shrine. All you got to do is pray. It cures all your diseases.
Get out of here! I had no idea.
It's the 5th edition model of super easy mode for players.
Okay. And that's not a mod, or that is a mod?
No, that's core rule. That's default.
Yeah, it was core.
Really? All right.
Yep.
I didn't know that it was that easy. I was looking online, seeing, well, how do you cure this? And there was this whole adventure thing that you had to do in order to get the cure. I didn't realize you just had to walk to a shrine.
If you've already turned, you can't just play at the shrine. But if you're still infected and haven't turned yet, then just go to any old shrine and pray.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Vampires in Elder Scrolls Online, and the first 6 months of the game were broken as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I took every advantage of it I played my Dark Elf Dragon Knight had an ability that would root everyone around me so that they couldn't move. And then a vampiric ability was called Swarm of Bats, where your character would literally turn into a swarm of bats that
That's
AoE
pretty cool.
damaged everyone near you, but it was also a life tap. So I could catch 20 or 30 players out trying to invade a castle, jump in the middle of them and just root them all and turn into a bat and kill them all. So, yeah, that got nerfed pretty quick, though. But it was hard to be a vampire in that game, and people actually would pay you money to turn them into a vampire, and you could only do it one time per day. But in order to become a vampire in the first place, you had to go to this really dangerous part of the world and find a secret door and go through all this stuff and fight everything. And you had to meet this female vampire, and then she killed you, but then you came back to life, and then you would be a vampire. And then after that, if someone wanted to be a vampire, they could ask you, and you could bite them and turn them into a vampire, but it was a once per day thing. So there were people on the server that would literally pay tons of gold to be turned into a vampire. It was like a cottage industry turning people into a vampire.
People glom onto the weirdest of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
Werewolves,
see.
on the other hand, kind of sucked.
Oh, my wife is texting the crap out of me here.
One of my fun little things to do. Going back to, once again, like I said, I played Ultima Online for like 15 plus years, so I got a lot of stories from that game. But early on, one of my favorite things to do is, because they had like 30 different skills, but you only had 700 skill points. So if you wanted to have 7 skills at max level, that's all you were going to get. And so you kind of had to pick and choose which skills you wanted to have on a character. And of course, since I was looking for different ways to exploit the game, I was trying out different combinations of skills and things like that. And that's when I discovered one of the easiest ways of making money in that game is hiding, cooking, and poisoning. I'd go to the bank and hide, cook some bread, poison it, and then drop it on the ground. People would come along, pick up the food, eat it, die right there at my feet. I would loot their body and throw it right into the bank and then hide again.
I used to hate those dudes that would stand on top of light posts, stand on the lamp posts and attack you.
Oh, so you couldn't get to them? Yeah.
Like, you asses. They were always like some kind of hybrid wizard fighter.
Yep. And the other thing that almost along the same line is the people that would be like right at the town borders. So they would attack you outside of town and then run like 2 feet in
Into
one
the
direction.
safe zone.
And now they're in town. And so your attack back at them, you attack them in town, and the guards would instantly appear and one shot kill you. And it's like, oh, you son of, I hated that.
Yeah.
So let's think. What is a good game to jump into now?
Good Lord, Steve.
You talking
Like,
computer,
let's
or
say
you talking tabletop?
Huh?
Tabletop with
No,
computer.
I'm talking computer. I'm talking CRPG.
Final Fantasy 1.
Final Fantasy 1.
I can't think of one, and I used to play like every MMO that came out, and now I can't think of a single good MMO.
I mean, there's so many out there, and I kind of gave up on keeping up with video games over a decade ago. If somebody told me they were going to make an MMO following AD&D first edition rules, like a Greyhawk MMO, real scale world kind of thing with random terrain generators and dungeon generators, I would probably say, okay, I'm curious, let me look into it. But everything else coming out, it's like, Man, there's nothing that entices me away from the table, away from my book games.
Well, I mean, nothing would do that for me anyway, but there was the time where, in addition to,
no, you're right. Right. As I've gotten older,
I would play all kinds of MMOs. I played Shadowbane. Well, I started with EQ, DAOC, Shadowbane, EQ2, WoW, SWTOR, Star Wars Online.
Mm-hmm.
I played the first one, Star Wars Galaxy, until they killed it, and then I eventually played Old Republic. I played the Warhammer Fantasy Online, which was absolute trash. Geez. Yeah, and it was just like after a while, I got to where I was like, these games are all identical, really. It's all a matter of going somewhere and killing some rats and bringing some rat pelts back to some guy. And then he gives you some coppers or something. And then you just keep doing that over and over again forever. And I just got to where I was like, no. I'm tired of hunting rats for you, buddy. Now I play a single player game called Planet Base, which is you're trying to build a base on like a Mars type planet and constantly failing and seeing all your little people die. At least that's been my experience over the last couple of years.
There's a Final Fantasy bundle on Steam for like $75. It's 1 through, I want to say it's 1 through 6, the bundle. Let me double check.
Oh no,
I wouldn't pay $75 for it
anymore.
Yeah. It's 1 through 6. A bundle 1 through 6, $74.82. Or you can get Final Fantasy 1 for $12. That's a lot for a game that's that old.
Or you can accidentally kickstart Dragonbane 3 times.
Oh, you kickstarted Dragonbane 3 times?
Yes.
By accident.
By accident? Yeah.
By accident, yes.
And they didn't let you cancel the other 2?
I didn't know I did it. And then a box arrived and it had 3 of everything in it.
Oh my God.
And I was like, wow. I mean, I've got one of my cloth maps up there. The other ones are still wrapped up.
Now you have Christmas presents.
Right?
Yeah, or you do giveaways on your channel.
I got my box set down here, and I've got the other 2 still in shrink wrap.
Yeah.
It's like, I actually really like this game. I know it's going a little bit off of topic here.
No, that's fine.
But even though there's ducks in this game, I don't know. I like this game. This is not a bad game. If you haven't checked it out, it's worth a look. It does a lot of stuff that I like. Mm-hmm. It's a roll under system. Armor absorbs damage. You roll to cast spells. I mean, it does a lot of stuff that I really like and wish D&D would do.
Yeah.
I will check it out when I win your giveaway and you send it to me.
All right. You live in Canada, though, so it costs like $1 million to send anything to you.
Oh, I have friends who live right on the border. You can send it to them dirt cheap, and I can just pick it up when I see them.
I see. Look at you coming up with workarounds. I like that.
Yeah. Are you sure you didn't buy the merchant's pack? You might have. You might have bought the store bundle. Yeah.
I pretty much buy anything Free League puts out.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got freaking Blade Runner, all of Coriolis. I've got 2 copies of Twilight 2000.
I was Twilight 2000. There was something about it. I didn't think anybody would play it, to be honest.
You remember that movie from a long time ago called The Road?
The movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's super depressing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the game.
Shit.
Yeah, that's what the game like 2000 is. It's The Road, the RPG.
Thank God.
I mean, thank God you can literally drink water out of the stream. Oh, you've got Legionnaire's disease, or go into a city looking for something.
Right. So it's just like It's Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Right? There's cannibals all over the place that want to eat you. It's just
no.
it really is like when people talk about playing a post-apocalyptic game. Twilight 2000 is for real post-apocalyptic.
Yeah,
but it does not give you, cool wings or some mutant ability.
Yeah, if you want a really good post-apocalyptic that's not Fallout, Fallen Earth is incredible.
Is it?
Fallen Earth is a really, really well put together game, an older game. I think it's still available. I think it's actually free to play. That might be on Steam as well.
Well, I'm going to jump off of here, guys. It's
Yep.
I'm old.
You have a good one. Let's see if Fallen Earth.
See you, James.
On Steam.
See you guys.
Yes, it is, and it is free to play. Fallen Earth is free to play, and it's on Steam. That's a game I definitely recommend that you check out. So that's a good takeaway for this stream is to check out Fallen Earth. Like I said, it's free to play, so it's very positive. Although recent reviews very positive, all reviews mixed. Came out in 2011, so it's an older one, but it's a definite. It has definite charm to it.
There you have it, folks. 2 hours of random rambling just to say, check out Fallen Earth.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I hear they did a Fallout role-playing game.
Yes, they did. Yes, and that was either Modifius did. Modifius did a Fallout.
Read any reviews or hear anything about it?
I got the quick start for it, and it's not going to translate well. Yeah, it doesn't translate well to a game. I mean, the game system is fine, but it's just like I don't think that really plays well. That kind of a setting, you're better off getting like Stalker for that kind of a thing, or Shadowrun, and doing Shadowrun instead.
I think one of the advantages if you were to play Fallout, especially if you were familiar with the games, is you'd be familiar with the setting. You'd understand the basics. You understand the bottle caps for currency, the rads, the medication,
Right.
the need for all that. You'd already be used to that mechanic. So I think the learning curve would be simpler. If you were coming to it brand new and haven't never played the games, then it might be different. But
yeah. No, it's not. Like I said, it's not a bad system. It's not a bad representation of the game. I just don't think that it didn't come off as gritty. That's the only thing I could think about it. Right? It didn't really come off as gritty as like Fallout 3 or
right. You definitely want to get the feel of that grit. Yeah.
Right. You don't have that feel of that grit. I'll be right back. I gotta take my dog down and see if she'll go to the bathroom.
I'm actually going to take this opportunity to dip out, but thanks for having me.
Actually, we're coming up on 2 hours. So actually, I'm going to wrap it up. So so we have left with the decision to everyone go check out Fallen Earth on Steam. It is free to play, and you won't regret it. It is actually a very solid game. All right, so thanks for stopping in. And Mage's Musings, I will put the link up once this goes onto the server that I can just
cool. I
add
appreciate it.
Notes, and I'll do the same thing for James. And as always, empty inside. Good to see you again, and I will see you Tuesday night. Well, I'll see you over the next couple of days. I might do some more live streams since I'm kind of home alone, or I'll do this here.
Well, you have
the
Sunday night game tomorrow, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Actually, two people dropped out of that. Malric and Angus can't make it,
right?
And I wasn't planning
all the
on
more reason why.
anyway.
All the more reason why you need a reliable player for Sunday night. So
yeah. So I think it's down to like 2 players and everything, and we were planning on doing that in later on in the month anyway. So I think that was what some people were saying was like, oh, they were kind of really set on the 27th, I want to say. Yeah, it's the 27th. They were planning on the 27th.
Okay.
So, all right. Thanks for popping in. And as always, I will see you definitely Tuesday night. And it should be a good one Tuesday night, too. So,
Good.
everyone, thanks for joining. Have a great night.
Good night.